Welcome to Gardening with the Gardeners, a podcast where we discuss our favorite plants, gardens, landscape designs, and all things horticulture, with a touch of our crazy homestead lifestyle thrown in.
I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Boone Gardner, a horticulturalist, landscape designer, and fourth-generation owner-operator of Boone Gardner Landscape.
And I'm Hope Gardner, Matt's wife, a horticulturalist with our local county extension office, as well as a landscape designer with a family business. And together, we make up Gardening with the Gardeners.
Dun da da da.
I know.
Episode 20.
20, we made it. That's exciting.
That's it. We're out of here. We're done.
No. We're just getting the hang of it. Well,
Literally.
We're kind of getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
We learn something new every time we do this, and so we still have a lot to learn, but we're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning a lot.
Yes, we are.
Yes. So let's keep doing it.
Okay. Hopefully we're helping people some, too.
That's what I love to hear. I absolutely love when I come across somebody and like, oh, I've been listening to the podcast. I had a lady today that I was talking to Miss Brooke, and Brooke was saying how much she loves listening to the podcast when she's out in the yard gardening.
Well,
so I
good.
thought, how fun.
That's very nice.
Thanks, Brooke.
Shout out to Brooke. So, it's July.
Oh,
July
it's July
2nd. And
is it only the second?
summer has hit us with a punch in the face.
It's a 1-2 punch, yes.
We were very spoiled with this spring.
We had
Except
some
for
of
that
the
one
nice...
little heat spell, but then it's been very nice.
Yes. And so, yeah.
You were going to say some of the nicest weather.
Well, it has been the nicest spring, I think, weather we've had for a long time. And I think that really kind of, we forget year after year what July's weather's like. Mm-hmm. And I think this really is typical July weather. But
it is. Everybody's freaking out, but it's very common.
Everybody's freaking out. We're getting notices on the phone about, heat advisories and everything. And I'm like, I don't remember as a kid getting heat advisories.
No, we just kind of dealt with it.
I mean, it was July. It was hot.
It's hot. And 4th of July is always hot. Muggy, humid, muggy as can be.
Well, and then to add insult to injury, we had a big rainstorm, last week? And so all the ground is still wet. Mm-hmm. And then we have all this heat. So
Massive
I got up
fog this morning.
I was going to say, I got up really early this morning to go ahead and get some of the raised beds I could tell needed a little bit of water. And it was so foggy.
Which sounds ridiculous that they need the water.
I know. Well, because they're the raised beds.
Oh, I know. But that's how fast things have dried out with this heat. You're right. It was really foggy. Sorry, I interrupted. But yeah, it was pretty. It was really pretty. It
was very interesting.
I like it. I think it's cool.
Well, you like that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Mysterious.
It was. Yeah.
So, yeah, we're having 95 plus. I guess the heat index was 105, supposedly. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, at least, I would say.
Poor guys and crew are out working in this, and it's part of the deal, but we'd have to kind of definitely be careful and drink lots of water and take breaks and slow down a little bit.
Well, I think that kind of does bring us to a good point of being able to identify, especially as a gardener when you're working outside.
You have to be careful. Really
careful. And what are those kind of signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion versus heat stroke? Mm-hmm. Because obviously we're all out in the heat. You just get kind of, you're sweating. It's always going to sweat. If you're having a heat stroke, you don't sweat.
Yeah.
And that can be really dangerous. With a heat stroke, your body temperature is above 103 degrees. So that's really, really dangerous. You're going to get, both with a heat exhaustion and heat stroke, you're going to get very nauseous.
Mm-hmm. The vomiting.
You're going to have a very strong, rapid pulse with the heat stroke, but with heat exhaustion, it's going to be more of a weak pulse. And then you're going to have muscle cramps with that heat exhaustion. But with heat stroke, you can actually pass out. You can lose consciousness.
Yeah, the heat stroke's more of a serious symptom.
Or
not symptom, but I guess...
either one, it's dangerous.
Either one's dangerous. And, I know people I think Mom had a heat stroke when she was pregnant with me from working. She was out working in the garden at their dad's old farm. And the heat's always affected her adversely ever since. I think that's more of a permanent. The heat exhaustion is just something where you just get overheated, but heat stroke is more serious. So.
It is. So if you are with anybody that is having a heat stroke, you really do need to call 911 and take immediate action to cool that person down until help arrives, because it can be very dangerous.
Yes.
So, going into this weekend next, when we know that our temperatures are going to be, that heat index is over 100, it's really important as a gardener to know, how important it is to take that very seriously.
Yeah, if you can, you have the luxury, you can work in the morning or work in the evening.
Yes.
And try to avoid the highest part of the day. That kind
Well,
of thing.
I think it was like about 6 or 6:30 when I went out this morning, and it was actually a comfortable.
This morning was pleasant.
Yeah, it was like 73.
Yesterday morning was oppressive already.
Yeah, it was. But, I still was sweating when I got done.
It's so humid.
But yeah, so you try to get out there early or late. Just if you're watering your garden late in the evening, just be careful not to get it all over the plants. Just get your soil wet. But really, all gardeners out there, be very, very careful.
So that heat can, obviously cause problems for us, and it also causes problems for plants.
Yes.
You get things like leaf scorch, stress, especially transplant shock, and things like that can kick in really hard right now.
Well, and they say, and of course, everything comes back to dahlias for me. But, we try to fertilize our dahlias about, once every 3 weeks. So this would be the week that I really wanted to fertilize dahlias. And I've got tons of buds and flowers are opening, and it's just amazing. With this heat, I do not want to fertilize because I'm not trying to push any additional growth to stress those plants when they're trying to cope with the heat as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to skip this week for sure, maybe even next, depending on what our temperatures are.
It's supposed to be cooler, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But, we don't want to stress our plants out either. So I'm holding off on any fertilizer, anything that's going to push those plants to try to work harder. They just need to take a break and just be able to make it through as well. So not just dahlias, but any plants.
So I think the title for this episode maybe would be Bagworms, Beetles, and Mites, Oh My. Or
Yes, I think that's a good one.
Include the heat in that kind of symptom, or problem too. I keep saying symptom, but wanted to discuss insect pest problems that are occurring in the garden right now, things to watch out for.
Well, especially, now that, spring planting should be completed, and we're kind of looking into those months of maintenance, watering, weeding, and making sure that we don't have bugs and diseases and things like that.
Some of us are still planting.
Yes, I am. I don't have all my plants in the
I
ground.
am. Like, Crew's hard. We plant all summer.
Oh, well, I'm talking, home gardeners.
I think what kicked this off was your funny story, which we have heard probably dozens, if not more, times over the years, that my evergreen, which is not a pine, has pine cones.
Yes,
and that's
the
your story, so
arborvitaes.
I'll let you tell it.
Well, and I did. I had another lady call. I'm trying to remember if it was last Thursday or Monday, but she called because her arborvitaes are looking really bad, and she was talking about the pine cones on the arborvitaes. And I was like, oh, okay, can you send me a picture of that? Because I can guarantee arborvitaes are not going to have pine cones that are big enough for you to really identify. And those were actually the bags from the bagworms. Mm-hmm. And she had a really hard time because they're shaped like pine cones, and they look like pine cones, and they hang like pine cones.
They do. They absolutely do.
But they're not pine cones.
But when you have that many of them, that's bad.
It's really bad.
It shows she's got a bad infestation.
She had a very, very bad infestation. And when I tried to explain to her that it might be best to hand pick all those off, or, cut them off with some pruners, but put them in a bag and dispose of them, she was like, but they're too tall. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you about that. Get a ladder, because you've got to get all those bags off.
So bagworms were probably the first pest problem that I learned about as a child, because I can recall Dad having me, I don't know how old I was, probably 6 or whatever, if in the nursery to have all his spruce and his pines and all his various conifers, arborvitae and whatnot, junipers, and they'd be, you get an infestation of bagworms, and so we'd start collecting them, pulling them off. And that's what we're going to talk about. That is the best way of management, is just literally to pull those bags off, those little pine cones.
Yep, exactly.
So it's basically it's like a silkworm, or it's a caterpillar that starts off really small in the early spring. You can scout for them back in May, and that would have been really. But now's the time you really start to see them. And
So that's the double-edged sword, because now's the time that you see them.
but they've already formed the bag.
And
strong.
those, yes. So as those bags are formed, they kind of, I don't want to say cure, for lack of a better term.
Oh, they get pretty tough because
they do. They go from that silk to
well, and they use all the material from if it's
the
a
plants.
juniper, they'll actually use little pieces of the needles and all that to create that bag.
and
It's
berries.
tough. Oh yeah,
Sometimes there's even juniper berries
it's
on
tough.
those.
It's real tough.
And so here's the problem.
You can't spray it as easily.
Well, when you spray, that spray doesn't penetrate those bags.
Yeah, back in the day, they used a little more heavy duty stuff that actually kind of got them. But now we're, and rightly so, we're not using the strongest stuff. So ideally, you would scout. If you're going to spray, you want to spray sometimes in May when they're like more not so large. But now that if they're visible and they're large, you're going to actually want to physically remove them. And they look like little brown like bags, I guess, little tints. Yeah.
Well, and they're kind of like I said, that cone shape. And so that's why people always kind of, refer to those as pine cones. So really, there might be some products like a neem oil that you can spray early in the season when they haven't cured up as strongly. But now when we get to that end of July, it's not going to penetrate those bags.
Yeah,
in
or
that
BT.
Yeah.
Bacillus thuringiensis BT that's really effective on the young caterpillars as well. But we're already kind of past that.
We're getting to the point of being past that. You're exactly right.
Hand removal, as you said, is the best way. Don't hurt yourself if you have to get on a ladder to try to get up high. I guess we should talk about, obviously, we talked about their favorite host, Arborvitae, eastern red cedar, our native juniper, other juniper species, spruce, pine, false cypress, leyland cypress, Doug fir, all these things.
Sometimes, and not always,
it's
but
kind of odd, yeah.
Sometimes they will actually be on
a deciduous tree.
Yeah, like a maple, a sycamore, honey locust. Some people even said roses. If it's a really bad infestation, you may find that there's they've moved off of those evergreens and onto some of these other deciduous trees, and even an oak.
Yeah,
which is really sad.
And I guess I've started seeing, we've been kind of selling the green giant arborvitae as kind of the bulletproof arborvitae, and of course nothing's bulletproof. But I've seen some larger plantings around apartment complexes and commercial plantings where all of a sudden you'll see the top kind of start dying down, like start at the top and go down, brown down towards the bottom. Often, not always, but often that's bagworm damage.
And it could be like one side, and like the front side might look really good, but the back side might be the one that's turning brown. Speaking of, I did see we have one bagworm on our blue Atlas cedar in the driveway.
We talked about you got to get pulled that guy.
Yes, well, we've got to get our very tall sun because it's the very top of it.
I think we mentioned that last. So yeah, it shows we got to get it.
Yeah,
but luckily,
it's only.
I've been watching. It's only one, but. That's a good point, though, because I say, it's only one, but each female bag can contain 500 to 1,000 eggs, making it so it's early. Critical management early on is really critical. So,
well, think about it. I mean, if you have, let's just say, even 10 bags on an evergreen, and they have 500 to 1,000 eggs, then next year, how many are you going to have?
That's it.
And then, it's kind of that compound, how many are you going to have the year after that?
And so the nice thing is, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The nice thing is, from what I've understood, is that the eggs usually overwinter in the bag.
Yes.
And then they come out in the spring. So even if you're late to get them this year, I mean, sometimes people even harvest them in the fall or whatever, just to get them off that plant. And
get all of them off.
And then put them in a plastic bag. We've discussed this before. And tie it up tight and throw it in the trash, throw it away. Do not put them on a compost bin or
No, because they'll. So I have also heard, and I thought this was very interesting, that once the female has created the bag, she doesn't leave that bag. The larva or the eggs will hatch and come out of it, but she will stay in there. Yeah, so that's why it's so important to get them off.
So that's one to be looking for, bagworms. And then kind of the second probably bug I learned, and probably you too, Japanese beetles.
Which I saw Japanese beetles on my dahlias this morning.
Yeah, you had some trouble with that last year with
those. So I'm definitely going to have to start spraying.
And I assume everybody pretty much knows what a Japanese beetle looks like, but it's kind of I guess the two wing portions of the back that protect the wings, the beetle part is kind of a brownish golden color,
Bronze.
but then it's bronze, and it has that kind of green tint to the front part of it. And the classic damage, it's real easy to kind of diagnose because it looks a lot like slug damage, but slug damage will kind of just use the, bigger rounded holes, whereas this is very skeletonized. It'll really kind of skeletonize a leaf, and then
completely.
Then you'll see like the venation left over from where it's been eating everything but the veins.
So they eat the nice, tender leaf part.
Yeah, the delicious
and then
part.
leave all of those
Stems.
Stems, yeah.
It's like you taking the stems off your spinach.
I do.
For your salads.
I do. I always take the stems off the spinach. But the peak season for these Japanese beetles is obviously like right now, like late June through early August. And that highest population, of course, is going to be in July.
Mm-hmm.
So most times we are very familiar with them on roses, crepe myrtles,
Really
grapes.
bad on lindens.
I
One of your
hate
favorite
to
trees.
hear that, but yes.
Yeah.
Really bad on lindens, Japanese maples, flowering cherries, hibiscus, Virginia creeper.
Which is really a weed for us, but some people use it ornamentally. But it does love it. It's a
It
good
does.
host plant. Which is something to be said. If you have it growing, obviously you don't want it there as a weed. Get rid of it because it is a host plant for it. So sometimes they'll be on that, then they'll jump to other ornamentals.
But even like my zinnias and the hollyhocks and the raspberries, blackberries, apples.
Crab apples.
Yeah. I mean, they like so many of the good plants.
Well, there's over 300 plant species that are known host. So it's pretty for a pest. That's pretty variable.
Yes, it is.
They love Japanese maples. They will
Unfortunately.
they will automatically go to like a blood good. They'll just eat it up, go to crazy on it. It's weird because I know growing up, it seemed like Japanese beetles were everywhere, and I said this on a previous podcast where it seems like they're kind of more intermittent, or you might have them really bad in one place and not so bad in another place, and it's always been that way. But it seems like they've kind of, at least from my perspective, it seems like they calmed down a little bit compared to how they were in probably the 80s and 90s. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I think we have some ebbs and flows in the seasons.
Yeah.
Where, one year it may be really, really bad. The next year it's not as bad.
And in certain locations.
And
it's like-
certain locations get really hit hard, and others
I just
you
remember
don't
these
even see 'em.
crazy infestations where you just take over everything.
Oh, I mean, you can hardly walk outside without
Yeah.
getting pelted by them.
And so they have these catchers or
Traps.
traps. Thank you, catchers. They have these traps that you can buy, but you and I also have said this before. We don't really recommend them because I think if anything, it just draws the neighbors' beetles to your garden.
It does.
And just creates more of a problem. And if it's a smaller plant, you have a smaller infestation, hand picking, and this is true for any pest problem. Wouldn't you agree that hand picking or mechanically removing those things, pruning them out is always better than trying to use a chemical if you can.
Yes. And if you can hand pick in the morning before they become active, that's easy.
They're a little more sluggish, yeah.
They are. They're still taking their nap. They're sleeping. Get just a bucket of water. Just
Soapy
put a
water.
little bit of soap in it so that kind of sticks into that water. They don't just fly off. But just hand pick them and throw them in a bucket of water.
Yeah. They
And that
won't
does-
bite you. They don't hurt
Nope.
you. That is the best way and the most effective. Now, that can be also, kind of daunting. If you want to spray, there obviously are Japanese beetle sprays. 7 spray, 7 dust, things like that work really well.
Even a neem oil.
Neem oil's great.
That's typically what I'm going to use.
Well, because we try not to use those. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to use any of the heavy pesticides. There's
power-
nothing wrong with
yeah.
them if right place. But for us with all the other animals around the farm
Well, and the bees and everything else.
and the honeybees, yeah, I don't want to use anything severe. So I will spray neem oil to try to handle them or manage them. So yeah.
So it's interesting because there's a full cycle. Because a lot of times there's the other cycle that the Japanese beetles we don't realize is the grub part of it.
The white grubs that are underneath
So that's
the
actually
layer of sod.
yeah, it's one of the life cycles of the beetle. So we're seeing the adult beetle out flying around, but that that grub larval stage will be in your lawn, and that's what causes a lot of your brown patches, your damage and stuff that people hate.
Those little larvae under the sod, they're actually eating like the roots. And so they'll go through and they'll eat all of those roots and keep these sometimes really large brown spots on your lawn. And when you go, you can almost pick the sod up off of the soil because there's no roots to hold it in.
Exactly.
So in that situation, you're going to take all of that dead sod off, rake that out, get a nice seed to soil contact, water it in, put some straw over top of it, and you can just reseed, in those areas. But it is very common if you have a bad infestation of Japanese beetles, it's going to be because of those white grubs. So another one of these pests that I have not, knock on wood, have not seen yet, but we know
well, a lot of times you don't
coming.
see the damage till later.
Well, it's our spider mites, and their peak activity is going to be here coming up in July through September. And it's really when we get those extended periods of really hot, dry, and that's the only reason I think we haven't seen them yet, because we've had so much moisture. But that hot, dry weather is when those spider mites come out. And you're going to see those on a lot of the same plants.
A lot of your evergreens.
Your arborvitae, your spruce, junipers, boxwoods even.
Burning bush.
Well, I wish they would just take all the burning bush out, but that's another another episode.
No. Some people love burning bush, so come on.
They have their place, but they are invasive.
Yes,
okay.
they are invasive.
So roses are very common to get spider mites, and of course azaleas are just magnets for them. But you can also get them on hydrangeas and viburnums and a lot of annuals and vegetables.
Oh yeah, a lot of vegetables.
Yeah, they can also get those spider mites.
So those symptoms are like kind of when you start seeing on some of the larger leaves, you'll see like like what they call little stippling, and it's just
almost like polka dots, but they're teeny tiny.
So it's where the little mouthpiece just literally sucks out the chlorophyll in that one area, and it causes a discolor, and it gets kind of a yellow color or white. On needles, the whole entire needle will start to brown out and look bad. Bronze or gray foliage. Sometimes you can see kind of a fine, almost like a silken material, like a little webbing, really.
It's webs.
Yeah, it is little webs between the leaves and the stems. You can see that sometimes.
In fact, that's one of the first things that we look for is, when you start seeing that stippling on the leaves. But if you start looking down closer to like the branching on those kind of between two branches or in the crotches of stems, when you start seeing that webbing is just that kind of telltale sign. That's
telltale sign, yeah.
Spider mites. So,
they love this. They love when it gets hot.
Yep.
So that's when their favorite conditions for infestations are 85 degrees and above. They cause when they're kind of a double whammy because usually the plants go through a drought stress, and then they get spider mites, and then it's just really it can take a plant down quick. And sometimes you don't know until way after the fact.
And that's why we're saying, a lot of these with this heat. You want to make sure that you don't get stressed in the heat, but you also don't want to stress your plants out in the heat. So make sure that it doesn't go too long without water.
Yes. Because most of the time, if your plant is healthy and watered well, it will not succumb to these guys. You may get them a little bit, but they won't be as bad.
It's kind of that survival of the fittest. Your stronger plants are going to survive. The weaker plants are going to get infestations.
Just like us, you want to keep their immune system healthy and happy. And, keep them going strong.
So what happens if you do get an infestation?
Well, hold on. We'll forget that my favorite test too. Dad taught me this as well, and of course everybody in our business knows this. But another great way to test for them is take a white sheet of paper, flip it over, particularly with evergreens, because you really can't see them on. Sometimes you can kind of see them. If you look really closely, little red dots, little brown dots. I mean, they're literally the size of a pinhead crawling around. You'll see them on stones and stuff too. Sometimes, like stone work and things like that. And there's a couple different kinds of mites, but you literally take that branch of that tree or shrub and smack it on the white sheet of paper a couple of times, and you'll see real quick. You can take your hand, just go drag it across if you want to, but because it'll smear them. But you'll see little red dots or little brown dots crawling around, and that's when you know you have them. That's a good little test to do periodically through this time of year.
So if you have questions about what it could be, I think it's also an interesting point to say first is that you've got to be very careful, because if you don't get these spider mites under control, that population can double in like less than a week. in
Yeah,
that favorable conditions.
They're
So,
like aphids that are. We'll talk
Yes.
about that shortly, but they explode.
yes. So if the conditions are favorable and you start seeing your plant not as vigorous, maybe a little bit graying out, or not as, the color's not as bright on the leaves, and you take a really good look and you see that stippling or you see that webbing, be sure and take care of it really quickly, because it can just really get out of control.
Yeah. So regularly inspect them, like you said.
Yep.
Perform the white paper test, like I just talked about. This is where I actually, you always focus on not watering the foliage, and you're right for the most part. But however, it is important to actually hose some of your evergreens and things down.
In the morning.
Yeah, with a nice jet of water, and that, believe it or not, you can do a lot of. That helps knock them down, drown them, blow them off. That helps a lot. And obviously, like you just said before, keep them healthy by irrigating them, keep them well watered. That will go a long way to minimize stress, because if they're stressed out, they become a lot more susceptible to these problems.
Yes. So if you do have to take care of it, you want to spray like a horticultural oil or an insecticidal soap for a light infestation. Try to get those before it becomes really, really out of control. And then there are miticides that you can spray
But
if
you'll
it
want to
gets.
reserve those for severe.
Yes. If you have totally missed it and you haven't done anything and they have been there for, quite some time, then, you can use the miticide, but you really want to use that as a last resort.
And then try to remember to rotate if you're doing it, like, especially if you have a recurring problem in the next year or something like that. Try to rotate what you had for the active ingredients, so that way, because they can build up resistance to some of those products, which is something most people don't think about.
And you have to be very careful, because you don't want to overuse some of these insecticides, because you're going to actually kill off the good beneficial insects.
Thank you. I was going to say that. We always try to say that the very last resort is using a pesticide, because you're 100% right. You want to keep those the good bait, the ladybugs and the
Yes.
predatory.
Well, so many times they advertise, oh, it's a broad spectrum insecticide. Well, that's great, but you're also, being a broad spectrum, you're killing all your good beneficials.
Mm-hmm.
So then you don't have anybody that's going to attack the bad stuff and keep a nice balance. So just be really, really careful. If you can, also not spray those insecticides when your plant is in bloom. So obviously, if it's like on a zinnia, it's really hard not to. But remember that your beneficials are also attracted to the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're spraying something, don't spray the flowers. That's where all your beneficials are.
That's a good point. Good point.
So,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
those pyrethroid insecticides are kind of what would worsen things and eliminate your beneficials,
Yes.
predators. So
Well, and that's why we all gardens, because we want to see the pretty ladybug or the butterflies and beneficials.
oh
So,
yeah, 100% pollinators and things.
Yeah.
So another pest plant. I can't.
It's hard to say.
Another pest of plants that you need to watch out for, that has a lot of the similar symptoms that aphids do, are lace bugs.
Yes.
The
And especially
azalea-
that azalea lace bug.
That daggone azalea lace bug. Oh, it's nasty. I could just have it so ingrained in my head, because it just, azaleas and rhododendrons and anything like mountain laurels, anything in that kind of ericaceous family can be a little bit tricky in our area to begin with, and then you just introduce stress and lace bugs come in and they make them look awful.
Well, and their peak is May through August. So they have a really long season.
Mm-hmm.
They come in early and they stay late.
Yeah, and like I said, azaleas, rhododendrons, pieris, mountain laurels, sometimes cotoneaster, but it has that. It's just like a spider mite, but a little bit larger. It has kind of a tiny white yellow stippling on the upper leaf surface, and that again, it kind of sucks that chlorophyll out. But then you can flip it over, and you'll see that kind of black tar excrement spots
Yes.
on the undersides, which is literally what it is. It's their little excrement. And then you'll see that the adults and nymphs, they'll be visible underneath the leaves as well. And it just it just makes the leaves look really dirty and nasty and sticky and goopy. And
It almost looks like they have a dust on them.
Yes.
Instead of being bright green and shiny, they're just dull and just kind of look tired and weak.
And it can be a pretty severe problem if it's left unchecked. It reduces flowering. It weakens the plants the following season. And again, like we said, azaleas and rhododendrons already have a hard time here sometimes, and you don't want anything else to weaken them further.
No, not at all. In some of the conditions that you're really going to have to keep an eye out for them is any of that, full sun exposure that stresses those, broadleaf evergreens out.
Which, the azaleas, people put them in full sun, but
they need to have afternoon shade.
That's it. Our ideally is that morning sun, shade in the afternoon,
yes,
and that will go a long way to put.
And those really hot summer temperatures, which is that, hot temperatures in the afternoon, you've got to really watch when our temperatures get really high, when there is a drought stress on those plants.
Are you seeing any common denominators here, people?
Yeah.
It's kind of
right
all these.
now.
No, all these problems, all these pests have kind of the same. They love the same conditions.
Yes. So like we said, when any of your plants get stressed, they're more susceptible. So if we are going into a drought, now right now we just had a lot of rain earlier in, like I guess last week. So the ground itself is still moist, but next week I don't suspect we'll be in that situation. And if we have these temperatures, we might be in a drought stress situation. So keep an eye on those plants. Mm-hmm. If you have evergreen shrubs that are planted near, and this sounds very detailed, but a heat reflective surface.
I.e. a brick wall.
Exactly.
Like your foundation of your house where everybody puts them.
Yep. So when the sun hits that brick and it heats it up, it holds those heat temperatures and it releases it at night. So then it goes from a hot daytime temperature to actually like even a hot nighttime temperature because it doesn't have...
Plus it gets hotter during the day too.
Yes. And it does get hotter. So that really kind of almost dries those plants out and causes even more of a stressful situation. So be very, very careful and keep an eye on any of your broadleaf evergreens that are planted close to a house, like a brick house, where that reflective heat.
So again, management, you're just going to want to start inspecting things, which this time of year, that's a lot of things. Just keeping your eyes open, look at your plants, notice for differences in change of color or foliage types and things like that. Inspect the undersides, weekly if you can. Maintain that consistent soil moisture. We keep talking about that to reduce plant stress. Preserve your beneficials. There you go.
Yay.
We talked about that as well.
And a neat thing is you can actually go online and buy beneficial insects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can.
So you can get ladybugs, lacewings, assassin beetles, even those predatory mites. You can buy them and release them in a situation with a heavy infestation.
Yeah,
here's the kicker.
Predatory mites, meaning some mites are good mites. So yeah,
yes, there can be. If the infestation is not strong enough, those beneficials are going to come, they're going to eat, and if there's not enough to feed everybody, they're going to move on to another location. So you're releasing ladybugs, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those ladybugs are going to stay right there. They're going to stay where the food source is, or they're going to go scout more food. So,
like peacocks?
Yes, those dang. If they would just eat all of the lacewings, we'd be doing great.
Not the lacewings, the lace bugs.
The lace bugs, I'm sorry. If you do have a small, if you catch it early enough, go ahead. A strong stream of water can knock those down to the ground. Apply
like the mites.
Yes, those mites. Apply an insecticidal soap or horticultural oil, and
that
ensure that the coverage is also on the underside of the leaf. You're going to have to make sure and spray up from the bottom up in to get the underneath side of those leaves where those bugs really are. So.
And then finally, consider, like we talked about, consider relocating highly susceptible azaleas to other sites, with the afternoon shade if the repeated infestation keeps occurring, because right plant, right place, you won't have this problem as much or at all.
I think people are afraid to move plants.
It's true. I think you get something in the ground, you're like, oh, I'm kind of married to it, but you really aren't. And that's what really, when you really start becoming a good gardener. You start moving things around, you realize what worked, and even what worked 1 year or 5 years ago may not work right now. It may be totally different. The garden changes, the trees grow, you lose a tree, conditions change. It's important to be flexible when you're working in your garden and trying to optimize it.
So when you're talking about these management skills, I just think, if people could just come home from work, get a nice glass of sweet tea or whatever their drink of choice is, take a minute and just walk the
I was
garden.
going to say wine or beer, but
Yeah, whatever you like. Just take a minute and take, relaxation. Just let all of that trouble from work go and walk around and look at your plants and just kind of notice what's going on in nature. Because I think we're the best, you know your garden and your landscape, and you're going to tell when something is off. So just take a minute and walk through. It doesn't have to be, an hour of deep investigation. It can just be, walking around and just enjoying what you have out there. So, yeah, keep an eye out. Okay, we got to talk about one other one, and this is one that I think everybody has had at some point in their garden.
Yeah, they're definitely a garden pest. I always think I'm just being such a pain in the butt greenhouse pest too, because they're really bad in greenhouse situations if you get them in there.
Well, they're also, I think, the longest lifespan of, a pest that we have. Their peak activity can start as early as April and go all the way through the end of September.
Yeah, really, until you probably even longer
we have
until you get frost. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's multiple generations through the growing season. I mean, it's not just, one bug comes in.
Well, and I remember when I took entomology at UK, aphids have really strange reproductive cycles, and they're literally, they can reproduce asexually and sexually, and supposedly a baby can be pregnant with another one. And
oh, it's true.
A baby can be pregnant while the mother inside the mother it's in.
So there can actually be 3 generations at one time. But the aphid is born alive from the mother aphid.
So I did hear. I'm not imagining all this. I did.
No,
hear, yeah.
It's true. There's can be like 3 generations
all at once.
I believe that is correct.
And they explode. Like that's why they just go crazy.
Yes. So, what are their favorite hosts?
Roses.
Obviously, roses.
They love roses.
Yes.
That's a real problem. Hydrangeas, viburnums.
Crepe myrtles.
Crepe myrtle. And that's a good one to talk about because you'll actually sometimes notice it from, I'm probably getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but you'll notice it because the crepe myrtles are tall, and so you may not see them right away. But then if you're sitting underneath them on your patio and you get that honeydew that falls down.
That stickiness.
Or it leaves that residue on your table, your furniture. And that's, again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but that's that honeydew that they actually exude from their little behinds after they eat.
Okay, so what happens is they attach the little mouth parts and they start drinking out all of
the sugars and good stuff, chlorophyll. Yeah.
So we talk about, when the leaf goes through photosynthesis and it creates these sugars for the plant to live. Well, it also creates those sugars for the aphids to live because, who doesn't like something nice and sweet? So the aphid goes in there. It's all into this dessert. It's just eating all this sugar, and it goes right straight through the system. And then as it comes out the end of the aphid, it is still a sugary, sweet, sticky yuckiness.
And then it comes out kind of it's called honeydew. And it comes out kind of honey, it's yellowish, whatever color. But then the problem is it gets that sooty mold growth.
Yeah. Black sooty mold.
Yeah.
And so then you don't think about that being that yummy, sweet stuff that the plant makes because it does attracts those molds. The mold spores eat on that sugar as well. And then so things start turning black.
And so it almost becomes like 2 pest problems in one.
It's just all-around pest problem.
But so I interrupted with the crepe myrtle and all that, but the other hosts it likes are spirea.
Oh,
coneflowers.
Yeah, our purple coneflowers.
Milkweed.
And then there's just a ton of annuals and perennials. I mean, I don't think that they're really very...
they're not very selective.
No.
They're on a broad... They have a big host supply. So
they are on the full salad bar.
Yeah. So, symptoms.
Okay. So you're going to have these clusters of small, they could be green, black, yellow, brown, red insects. And then they're going to be on that tender or the new growth. So like with your roses, they're usually right there on the rosebud.
Yes, they are. And they can ruin it real fast.
Ruin a rose. Yes.
Ruin them.
They're going to cause kind of a curled and
Distorted, yep.
puckered leaves, because they're taking all that nice, juicy sugars from the chlorophyll, and it just causes those leaves to just curl up.
Yep, and of course the sticky honeydew that we discussed
that's gross.
It gets on the leaves, nearby surfaces. I mean, you can literally, if it's really bad. I mean, because sometimes they do get on woody ornamentals, and they'll get in large trees, and you can be sitting underneath the tree and it'll be falling on you. It's really gross.
Well, and then the honeydew it takes a while. I mean, it's not going to immediately be a black sooty mold, but it kind of cures.
Yes.
And it kind of, that mold moves in, and
it's a perfect condition for that mold.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it will definitely stunt any new growth.
And you could see, you might see increased ant activity because the ants,
they like that honeydew.
They eat the honeydew that they exude. And it's kind of weird because they can also kind of protect the aphids from predators, because obviously the ants are like, oh, this is a feeding supply. So,
they're going to eat the sooty mold instead of the aphids. And then I think that stickiness kind of holds those aphids on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So those favorable conditions. And this kind of sounds, so it's that cool to moderate temperatures early in the season, and then they just persist through the summer. So any excess nitrogen fertilization is going to promote that lush, succulent growth of your leaves. And that's what they love. It's just that tender, lush growth in the very beginning of the year. So that's what they're going to go after early. And then as the plant continues to grow, that's when it goes to those flower buds, because that's going to be that tender part of the plant. So any flush of new growth, that's what they're going to be attracted to. So, if you prune really hard and you cause that plant to flush new growth, it's going to go after those leaves as well.
It can, if it's weakened and all that kind of thing. And obviously reduced populations of beneficial insects will cause problems and have those guys move in, because there's nobody eating the aphids.
Well, there's no balance.
Yeah, like ladybugs and things like that.
Yes.
Lady beetles. Some people I always say ladybugs, but I guess lady beetles is a more appropriate term. And mild winters. Sometimes we don't realize how good a good hard winter can be. It's hard on plants, but it's really good for knocking down pest populations.
Yes.
So when you have these really cold temperatures, it helps knock things down, and that actually can be a good benefit to a hard winter.
Yes. So
for
obviously,
management,
you're going to walk around your garden with a nice glass of tea or beer or wine, and look at that new growth to see if you see any of these little aphids.
We're in Kentucky. You can have a bourbon too.
It's kind of hot for a bourbon.
It is hot.
Depending on how you fix it.
Although your dad says never. It's never too hot for bourbon.
Yeah, he's a true Kentuckian. Okay, so then you want to encourage any of your beneficial insects, like your ladybugs, your lacewings, hoverflies,
any of those guys,
wasps,
parasitic,
any of those. Wash the aphids off of the plant with a strong stream of water when the population is light. Avoid any excess nitrogen fertilizer so that you're not encouraging growth when you don't really need it.
Use the insecticidal soaps or the horticultural oils, your favorites. Which, I mean, even for you were treating, because we've got aphids on the night blooming cirrus. Or was that aphids, or is that what is up?
We had mealybugs, so that's
mealy. Similar pest problem though, in the way you treat it. But this is a house plant, and Hope was actually taking a Q-tip with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and just cleaning the leaf, because obviously it's a house plant. It's a little easier. You're not going to be able to do a Q-tip and rubbing alcohol on some of your larger plants outside. Now, if it's a small one, you're just one infestation.
But you can also use a systemic insecticide.
Yes.
And I don't know that we've talked about systemic insecticides before, but what that does is you put the insecticide down, water it in.
Usually it's a granular form, and you put it on the drip line of above the root ball. But
you have to water it in, because that plant absorbs that insecticide when it absorbs water from the soil. And then that insecticide goes up the root system, through the cambium layer, all the way up to the leaves. And then when the insect comes and feeds on those leaves, it gets the insecticide from the inside of the plant.
Yes.
That is effective for a very severe infestation. But be very careful, because again, all of your pollinators and your beneficial insects, it can damage them as well. So in certain situations, systemic insecticides are great, but you do have to use those very, very carefully.
Yes, you do.
And then, you can also, if it's a really heavy infestation, just prune those shoots off if need be. So, I mean, you may have to lose a couple of your rosebuds, but prune them off, put them in a bag, throw it to the dump.
Exactly. Sometimes it's better just to cut your losses and go.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of other pests, obviously, still that we could cover, but that's probably a good kind of, you could talk about scale. I don't know if we want to go into all that yet or not, but
Well, there's so many different types of scale.
that's the tricky part.
But, okay, so just to let everybody know, scale is kind of
You do want to talk about it.
No, we're not going to go into detail. We're not going to go into detail. But if you see any bumps on a stem or a twig, and they kind of look like almost like a little teeny tiny little turtle shell.
Yeah, a little turtle shell, or like a seashell.
Shells and cheese.
Velveeta.
Pasta. Yeah, they look just like a Velveeta shell.
Well, except they're not. Yeah, they're brown and gray, like gray looking.
Well, they look like whatever the tree bark looks like almost.
Exactly.
But they're just stuck on that. And then, that's going to be some form of scale. And like I said, there's tons of different types of scale.
And I guess that's a good. We should cover them a little bit. We are, but they're another sucking insect. So you got aphids and mites, and all those guys are ones that actually, instead of eating, they actually suck, and so
Yes.
they suck on both levels. But there's euonymus scale, magnolia scale, oyster shell scale, cottony maple scale.
You are going deep.
Well, you already started, so I don't know, but you'll see it on euonymus a lot. I mean, euonymus a whole lot. Magnolia, maple, arborvitae, junipers, on and on and on. But like we said, it's those small shell-like bumps that attach to the stems, twigs, and leaves. They cause yellowing foliage. They reduce vigor, and there's a slow decline over several years.
And they can also cause leaf drop and
Yes.
then twig dieback because they're taking all that nutrients out.
And they actually, just like the aphids, the scales produce a sticky honeydew as well, particularly the soft scales. So there's two different kinds. There's a hard scale and soft scale. And just like you would think, one's got it's kind of like a soft shell crab versus a hard shell crab.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
And the harder those shells are, it's harder to treat them. It can be a little tricky.
But they can also cause that when you're talking about that sticky
The black
honeydew,
sooty mold.
That black sooty mold.
Yes,
Yeah.
they can cause that too. So it's something to think about, because sometimes that same thing dropping from the large tree could be scale, not just aphids.
Yeah. So it is good to kind of keep an eye out.
And scale can be a little tricky, and this is one where, if
Call your local extension office.
again, you want to encourage beneficials, try to keep the plant healthy as possible. Dormant oil during late winter is a highly effective way. But if this is one where if you just can't get rid of it, you may want to look into some sort of systemic insecticide.
Definitely so.
But again, keeping that overall plant health proper with good watering, good mulching practices, avoidance, like you said, on the other one of unnecessary fertilization, just because that can cause. It sounds weird because everybody's like, "Oh, my plant's stressed out, I should feed it." No, not necessarily. So.
Yeah, because sometimes, if you feed it, like we just talked about, you're going to encourage more of that new growth, and that's kind of what they're going to attack. So it's counterintuitive, but, no excess nitrogen. So
we could keep going. We probably should stop for now. Or you got more you want to talk about? Or you want to talk about, we'll save that. We'll save diseases and stuff for another time.
we can save diseases. So there was one other one that I kind of wanted to touch. Okay. And I know that we are getting ready to go into some fall.
Fall?
Well, I mean,
we're just now in July.
we're in July. But before we know it, it will be fall.
No, it will be.
And
You're
if,
100% right.
Small webs, you can start seeing small webs begin as in late July.
No, that's a good point, because I literally was just thinking we had Eastern tent caterpillar, which is still
That's in the spring.
Yep, and then now we will start looking for fall webworm. It can start happening like you said, as early as late July, and usually it's kind of August later, but
depending on the heat and how dry it gets. So hopefully that's not something that we're going to have to deal with anytime soon. But if you're just listening to the podcast and maybe, we need to kind of just touch on that so that it's, in the back of your mind. But fall webworms, you said, the Eastern tent caterpillar is in the spring
Yep.
typically.
Yep.
And then our fall webworms can appear in late July.
Yeah.
So a lot of the
A lot of our native trees.
yeah, and that's what's really sad.
Walnut, persimmon,
Crab apples, hickories,
birch.
sweet gums.
I've
Those,
always seen them the worst. It seems like I've always remember seeing them the worst on like river birch and things.
and I think don't the our black cherries.
Yes.
They get them,
Well, they get eastern tent caterpillar,
but I think they also get the fall webworms.
probably.
So, there's a lot that a lot of our native trees will get those. The best way to get rid of those, unfortunately, I think, is cutting them out if we can.
Oh yeah, and
So-
we'll review this again later. But if you can't cut them out, I would a lot of times I'll take a wait till nighttime to where they
That's
actually
the big key.
go back to the tent, the web. Of course, I'm saying tent like eastern tent caterpillar, but the fall webworm's kind of the same way. And you can take a stick sometimes and kind of scoop them out, and then throw that in a bag and throw it away.
So they will go out and forage during the day. And that's when they're out and they're eating all of the leaves. And then at night, they come back into that
Their nest.
web.
Yeah.
And so that's the time to go out and really try to eradicate those. We can wait on diseases because I know that's a lot of the, kind of the ugly stuff that we need to kind of look for in the garden. But knowledge is power. And if you know what you're looking for, you can know how to take care of it.
Is that your new sign off?
Knowledge is power. No, I don't. I mean,
I'm teasing you.
I know.
I'm teasing you.
yes.
So I think that's about it for episode 20.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you guys next time. As always, you were going to say something.
So if you've enjoyed our program, we would love if you would just take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform that you're listening to us on.
Yes.
It really helps more garden-interested people help find the show.
Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. Please subscribe or follow to get new episode updates, and please help us get the word out, as Hope just said, about our podcast by dropping a rating or review.
If you have any questions about gardening, landscape, or horticulturally related
Topics.
You can email us at gwtg, and that stands for Gardening with the Gardeners, at boomgardener.com. And remember, our gardener is Gardiner.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Gardening Gardeners. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.